Welcome back to LUTE Labs. In the next couple of videos, we will discuss the inventory. We will discuss the basics of how the prefab works, the objects that the inventory is composed of, and how you can use specific orders to toggle the inventory, add items to it, and how the other interactions work within the inventory via the flow engine. Within this episode, we will simply discuss the inventory prefab, going through the individual objects that make up the inventory, looking at the toggle inventory order to ensure that we can actually visibly see the inventory during runtime, and how to interact with it using our mouse or touch keys. Let's jump into the editor to check it out further. Okay, so we're back in the editor again with our simple scene and our full LUTE prefab included within the scene. In this episode, we'll discuss a few nodes, the first being the inventory toggle, and in the next episode we'll discuss all of these nodes which have orders on them related to the inventory mechanics. Before then, let's actually discuss the LUTE inventory in some more detail. The LUTE inventory is a standalone prefab, and you can find that in the LUTE starter scenes prefabs, and it's called LUTE inventory. This includes all of the components that are required for the inventory to work correctly, which includes the inventory base, the sound and save manager, which are extras but are useful if you want to add sounds and want to make sure that your inventory saves correctly. The inventory base has an ID, it has a width and a height, so this essentially defines how the inventory will be displayed when you open it in game, how many rows it will have, and how many columns it will be using as well. Then it has the actual canvas, so that is what will actually be used to display the inventory. So you can find that just underneath here, and then the pop-up menu transform, so just transform relating to the display as well, can also be found as a child of this object. So let's take a look at those children now. We have the inventory display, which essentially is our display of the inventory. It contains a background, title, which is just says inventory for now, a button which allows you to close the inventory, and then it has underneath this the actual canvas for the inventory list itself. This is another this uses another class called the filler, and that works alongside the inventory components we just discussed to actually fill the inventory with specific other sprites and text and icons as well. The inventory canvas contains a panel, and this contains, if you click on an item, it contains the information about the item itself, which is the name, the picture, the name, and the description. Then we have the actual layout list of the inventory, and this is basically a grid layout with a scrollable rect on it, and it allows you to add inventory slots. So when the game first launches and an inventory is included, we use this to define how many slots are actually in here inventory. So in this case, it will be 3 times 10, so there'll be 30 slots. So that's essentially how the inventory works with LUTE. You don't have to use our display system. We do recommend it if you are a beginner, but you can customize it to how you see fit. So you could change the name, you could change the background, you could change how the individual slots look. The slots themselves are their own component, their own object, which has a UI item class attached to it. So you can actually just change specifically how these slots look in the inventory. So if we go back to the flow engine, at the moment, let me just make sure this is hidden. At the moment, we don't have the inventory will look in the game, but we need to know how to actually show it during runtime. The most common method really is to use a button, and we use what we call the inventory button order. So in this case, when our game starts, this order is called, and essentially all this is doing is, much like the pop-up menu that we discussed in a prior video does, it creates a button in a specific area of the screen, and when this button is clicked, the inventory will be displayed, and if it's already open, the inventory will be closed. You can have specific overrides for this order. The most important one, really, and the most common one used, is the actual custom button. So in this case, I'm using a specific sprite to use as my button. Otherwise, it will just use the generic one, which is included in the default package. So if I play the game, you can see this in action. So our inventory toggle node has been called, and this order inventory button has been called, which has created a button with our inventory icon inventory custom icon there used, and you can see that in the top left. If I click that, the inventory is displayed. If I click it again, it is hidden. Or if I click again and I use the back button, it's also hidden. So these are the slots, and as I mentioned, it is a scrollable thing, so you can scroll up and down. There are 30 slots in the inventory. As we noted, that has been defined here with 3 and 10 on the inventory base class. And if I click on any of them, it selects that slot, and if I hold down the click or press, it comes up with the context menu. Obviously, these can't be used right now because there's no item, but once we start adding items, you can see how these buttons will look. So that covers the basics of how the inventory works as a prefab and how the objects are all related to each other within our project and a hierarchy, and then how to actually display this within the game using the inventory button order. In the next episode, we'll actually discuss adding new items to your game, and then how to use orders within the engine to actually interact with these items. Thanks for watching, and we will see you there.